Rick and Morty presents the Death Stalkers. We start out with some people telling Hemorrhage from the show that he used to be a great leader and now he's made them lose everything. And he's in a cage. I hate how those people look in the first panel. He's in a cage because he was blamed for allowing an outsider like Rick to steal the magic rock that gave them cable. I don't know why the text bubbles all look different than normal. As if things weren't off-putting enough with the awful character designs, and it started out with people who aren't the main characters. It turns out the guy who was teasing Hemorrhage about how much he'll get punished was only in the cage for littering. He ends up killed for even that, and Hemorrhage surprisingly admits that he deserves to be punished with a chainsaw. And he says he tried to find more of the magic rock, but failed again. She's surprised to learn there's more. At least I guess it's a she. He explains that he was on a hunting trip in the city, and then a building was swarmed by bad-looking mutants. He says that they took what they could before the next swarm arrived, and something about the rocks called to them. Predictably, he's told to bring them to where the rocks are, twice in a row apparently. Finally, we see Rick and Morty. They're definitely more appealing. Rick stands in front of a tube with a rock in it. Morty makes a comment about the Rick and Morty fan base, which only makes sense in universe because he knows there could be universes where a TV show exists that's similar to his actual life. And so he could have found out that the interdimensional cable episode was a fan favorite. I still don't appreciate these fourth wall breaking jokes though. They're extremely easy to do and do nothing impressive. But this is the one franchise where they actually make sense. Rick presses a button. Nothing seems to happen, and he complains that this doesn't make sense because the mechanics are calibrated to the precise moment. Then he panics and tells Morty to run. They just barely get out of the lab as it explodes. Rick tells Morty off for taking the turbo detractor, blaming him for the explosion, as Morty complains that his eyes are burning and at least a little bit of realism to the fact that they just avoided an explosion. Then it turns out Jerry's wearing the turbo detractor as a necklace. Fortunately, he explains why he's doing this. He was just that desperate to find a new way to impress Beth. Rick says they're gonna need more isotope 322 from the Death Stalkers, and plans on bringing Summer with him so he can use her old relationship with Hemorrhage to his advantage. Somehow Jerry just cheerfully tells him to have fun, which is odd since he constantly complains about Rick taking Morty on dangerous adventures, as early as the pilot. And Rick takes the turbo detractor away from him from the other end of the portal, which he logically would have done before going in. I guess he's gonna hide it in his lab coat and hope it doesn't end up destroyed in that world after bringing it there, because he'd rather have it with him than near Jerry. Meanwhile, Hemorrhage leads characters I can't care about to a place, and he's told that close isn't good enough and he's trying to remember. Then someone awful looking screams as he looks at them, and there's a blam sound effect as some smoke is in front of him. He says there's too many, and then someone in a car says they should leave. They all drive away, leaving him to the horrible monsters. It doesn't help that the issue is saddled with an inferior artist instead of looking just like the show. I would actually rather see the Cronenbergs than these guys, because at least they look so far removed from any animals in reality, and any monsters in mythology, that I can't really take them seriously. They just wrap back around. It's hard to explain. They look more like clouds than anything. But these things look like humans to some extent, so they're more grounded in reality. And that's more disturbing because it's easy to take seriously. Because to make me think about humans, it just makes me wish they look like humans all the more. He ends up running upstairs and into an office building, and sees a mutant that he calls a baby. It's nice of him to care about protecting it, but I'd rather never see it again. And considering how gory his fight is with the not zombies, I don't even get to get satisfaction out of the fight. I'm not seeing him punch them around. They're already mutants, so why can't they have green colored blood? It's just unappealing to look at, so whatever. They all die in one hit, so I don't need to show it if it's not making for an interesting plot of its own. He thanks the baby for the assist back there. A baby assisted him? Whatever. It turns out the people who ran away from him are back, and tell him to kill that baby because he's a mutant, even though it's not trying to hurt any of them. He refuses, and they chase him into a dead end. And Rick shows up through a portal and kills them all with his laser. It's polite of Summer to say that's a nice baby. Rick asks where the glowing rock is, and Summer starts arguing with Hemorrhage, being just like Beth and Jerry, as Hemorrhage is called selfish and he calls her selfish, and complains that he had to buy a new house because she didn't want only one bathroom for it. I can't blame her. I wonder if the mutants are only fighting in self-defense, because everyone else discriminates against them for the way they look. Because that's the only explanation for why the baby doesn't show any aggressive tendencies. They defeat some more mutants with guns, and his gun is powerful enough to put a hole in the metal wall and give him access to a whole bunch of green rocks. You'd think being near something with the word isotope associated with it would doom them all to die of radiation poisoning. But I guess Rick's planning on making a cure for that anyways. In fact, since he's already used isotope 322, he definitely made a cure and applied it to him and Morty, because they don't show any signs of radiation poisoning in the show. The ex-couple apologize to each other for their relationship, and Summer is nice enough to compliment him that he's still the biggest and scariest man she's ever known. I'm surprised Rick got to the rock so easily. There wasn't an entire plot where he was struggling to get to the rocks. He wants to use them for 100 experiments, fortunately telling us why he wants them. Though even then it doesn't fully explain that. I guess he wants to use them to power inventions. He says they've got a full load, and tells Morty to get ready to spend a lot of time in the garage. I like that he gets Morty to join in on the inventing process with him. What if he's actually learning from that? How could Hemorrhage know that the baby's a she? I mean, I don't remember him changing her diaper. Summer considerately asks him if he'll be okay. That strikes me as odd since she hates him now, like Beth hates Jerry. He says he wants to find his own path apart from his old group. Why is the baby crying at seeing him without his bucket on? It's too young to know that that's a bad appearance when he's constantly surrounded by horrible-looking characters. And I don't know why he hasn't shaved his mustache off by now if he gets mistreated every time he takes a bucket off, because he has no reason to still have confidence in it then. And I think the mustache is the main reason he looks bad. But he does look better with the bucket on. Wouldn't the bucket have cut off his peripheral vision, though? I mean, you'd think that'd be a bad thing to do to yourself in a dangerous life where you never know which angle you'll be shot at from. It's just a bucket, so it's not like it's gonna be that bulletproof, right? I was letting myself think that it was really good armor because it's metal, but he lives in a post-apocalyptic human world. It turns out Hemorrhage wants to name the baby Summer, because he still has an attachment to Summer. It's nice that he gets to have someone to love and take care of who won't constantly argue with him. But realistically, you'd think he'd get killed in all the danger he puts it in. You'd think he'd get killed by someone passing by, even if he kept it apart from him, like in a cave or something. He's good at fighting, but still, it could get shot. We never did see it in the side story, but I guess the side story where he interacted with people from Summer's high school was a different dimension. Finally, the story's over. This off-putting issue is about Hemorrhage avoiding being put to death for letting Rick in when he ended up stealing the green rock, because he says there's more of them and is told to go find some, and when he finds a mutant baby, he wants to protect it, even though it'll make everyone around him want to kill him on sight. I guess they would have wanted to kill him on sight regardless. Him wanting to take care of a mutant baby in a dangerous world that's a female at that immediately reminded me of BioShock, with the baby being a little sister. And I've only read about that game. That's how obvious the reference is. But it's still nice, even if it was done before. This was a really tedious issue to slog through, because they hired the wrong artist for a story already doomed to look unappealing, because the characters in Hemorrhage's world all look awful. Thank goodness Rick and Morty get to show up, and Summer had a moment with him where she apologized for their relationship. So that wrapped things up from the show. It was using the most obvious idea for an excuse for Rick to go back to the planet, to get some more of the green rocks. And since it took so long for him to show up, he showed up right where the green rocks were and blasted the wall to get them immediately. It makes perfect sense that he'd show up close to where they are if he knew where they were last time. And he could search for them on Earth by looking through his portal, and he wanted to save Hemorrhage too, so he couldn't just portal into the building and ignore him. I'm glad I put this bad-looking issue behind me. The story was alright, but the action scenes were too bad to look at to be worth it. So not much was.